You're listening to a News OK podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the News OK Comics Podcast at Planet 46. We have got all kinds of stuff going on this week. Kyle, what do we got?
It's time for our Comic Surge, where we are going to talk about different news in the comics and what's going on this week.
The biggest comics news this week is new executives at DC Comics, and some of these guys you're going to have been familiar with. Jim Lee and Dan DiDio named co-publishers. Jeff Johns named Chief Creative Officer. Also, two new promotions, new positions. John Root is named Executive Vice President of Sales, Marketing, and Business Development. Patrick Caldone named Executive Vice President of Finance Administration. The people that, of course, are going to get the most talk about them are the guys that have sort of the creative backgrounds in comics. Jim Lee, one of your favorites.
Yeah, and that's absolutely huge because he's done a lot of work for Marvel, DC, a lot of things, and so that's huge that DC basically picked him up.
Yeah, he's been working at the Wildstorm division of DC since he sold his Wildstorm company to them in, I think, 98. But this moves him up as a really high position in DC overall. Of course, a lot of you might know Jim Lee from his days on the X-Men, where he sold 8 million copies of X-Men #1 as the artist. He later co-founded Image and drew Wildcats for Image, sold his part of Image, the Wildstorm Studios, to DC in 98. And has since then drew the best-selling Batman Hush series, and also has been involved with developing the Sony Online video game featuring DC characters, and heading up Wildstorm. Now takes another step up the corporate ladder and becomes a co-publisher of DC Comics.
Very, very cool.
So those are some of the big announcements out of comics news this week. And as these things developed, it kind of gave us some other things, including some movie news.
Yeah.
MTV talked to Diane Nelson, the president of DC, about these announcements, and also said, hey, how about that Superman thing? Is that happening?
When's that going on?
The Christopher Nolan Superman? She said at this point that's all just rumor, but there will be more announcements in the coming months. And didn't really give them much of anything. They also asked about Watchmen 2. That's been talked about on the internet a lot lately. Is there going to be a Watchmen sequel, either in film or comics right now? She says, we're looking closely at our whole library. That's what she told MTV, but there are no plans right now. Right now, that's just a rumor as well. Other movie news, The Losers. We talked about this last week. They moved it from April to June. This week,
April again.
It's back in April. Now it's opening on April 23rd. So stick with us next week, and maybe it'll be another month. We don't know. What else do you know about this week, Kyle?
Stephen Norrington, the director of...
He did Blade originally and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Going to do a reboot
of Crow.
Of Crow.
When the original Crow came out in 1994.
Right.
And so now Stephen Norrington is going to be attached to this project.
That's right. Alex Proyas directed the late Brandon Lee in that 94 project based on the graphic novel by James O'Barr. Norrington says this is kind of a new take.
Yeah.
So, different character.
Could be cool. Brian Michael Bendis is going to be attached to the new Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, he's met with those guys.
Mark Webb is the director. We've talked about that before. And I guess he met with all of them. He said on his Twitter account, just spent a very interesting morning with the entire Sony Spidey movie team. So, I guess
cool.
I guess they want him involved with it. And that kind of allows us to assume this is the ultimate Spider-Man storyline.
Yeah, it could be based on that, or maybe they just want his take on making a young, modern Peter Parker, since that's what he did so well in Ultimate Spider-Man.
Absolutely.
All right, well, now let's dig into the review file.
Yep.
First, we'll mention there's a couple Fall of the Hulks tie-ins this week, and Incorruptible, Mark Waid from Boom Studios coming out this week. That's been worth a look. Now, Kyle, give us a little in-depth take. You read Uncanny X-Men 521. What happened there?
Uncanny X-Men. As you can see on the cover here, Magneto is kind of meditating. It starts off, he's basically meditating on the top of this hill. There's a lot going on in this issue, including they show us a new character in the Marvel storyline. But yeah, I'll let that kind of leave that to you guys to check it out. But there's a lot going on in this issue. This is my pick of the week.
Yeah, and then there is a little bit of a surprise for long-time X-Men readers at the very end.
Yep.
Supergirl 50 from DC Comics. This is written by Sterling Gates, drawn by Jamal Igle, backup story by Helen Slater, who played Supergirl in the 1980s movies. This wraps up a lot of things that have been going on in Supergirl up to now. What's going on with Lana Lang? What's happening with her relationship with Supergirl? What's happening with Superwoman? Moves a lot of that forward. I thought a very exciting issues, kind of some throwback to Alien a little bit in some of the feeling of it, but very action-packed, but still got some character development in. I think this is the kind of issue a lot of people want to see out of Supergirl, which has, of course, been caught up in a lot of the new Krypton crossovers, which is fine, but I think a lot of the Supergirl fans like to see these issues where Supergirl herself can shine.
It seems like that's what this whole series has been. It's dialogue-driven, but action-driven as well. It has a huge mix of both of those.
Yeah, so my pick of the week, Supergirl 50.
Sweet. And mine's Uncanny X-Men 521.
That wraps up our review file and the comics podcast. So for Kyle Roberts, I am Matt Price. Thanks for watching.